5 Sinister Motel Hauntings revealed, terrifying true encounters that still haunt us today. Sarah drove into the dark unknown, the towering trees creeping closer, their twisted branches clawing at the night sky like skeletal fingers. The Shady Pines Motel loomed ahead, a decrepit shadow, its neon sign flickering, a tired ghost of a once vibrant place. As she pulled into the cracked driveway, something inside her tensed. This wasn't just another job, it felt wrong, like a bone-deep instinct warning her to turn back. But she needed this. She needed the paycheck. In this struggling suburb, she couldn't afford to ignore it. The moment she stepped inside, the air thickened, staleness clinging to her like a wet blanket. The owner, an elderly man with eyes too bright in the dim light, smiled too wide, revealing yellowing teeth. "Welcome," he rasped, his voice gravelly. Something about him made her shudder, yet she brushed it off. He was just an old man. What danger could he pose? Life was dangerous enough. As twilight seeped into night, Sarah entered her room, the door creaking ominously behind her. She flicked the light switch, and the bulb buzzed and flickered, barely illuminating the space. A musty smell hung in the air, a mix of mildew and something far more sinister. While fiddling with the light, her fingers brushed against the hard surface of an old newspaper clipping lodged behind it. The headline screamed, "Mysterious disappearances plague local area." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Panic clawed at her throat. Was this a coincidence or a message from the past? She tried to convince herself it was old news, nothing but a relic of some bygone horror. Later, as she lay huddled under the thin blanket, the ominous rustling outside her window commanded her attention. Someone lurking just outside the glass. Her heart thundered against her ribcage, panic simmering just beneath the surface. She bolted up, vision straining against the gloom, just as the figure melted into the shadows. She slammed the window shut, locking it with shaky hands. Fear turned her blood to ice. She was utterly, terrifyingly alone. Each following night brought fresh terror. She'd hear scratching at the window, a soft clawing that sent chills rippling down her spine. Whispers drifted through the air, haunting melodies that twisted into incoherent phrases, laced with despair. And that man, with his piercing gaze, seemed to know too much, his presence lurking just at the edge of her awareness. Who was this man? Why did the townsfolk never stop to help? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One night, the chilling conversations outside her room piqued her fear. "They never left," a voice murmured, sending ice through her veins. Who were they talking about? She gripped the phone, but every attempt to reach out ended in silence, her calls swallowed by indifference. Dark truths began to unfold. The weight of her family's past pressed down on her. Why had she come here? As dread wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket, she steeled herself for what lay ahead. But just as she braced for the confrontation, she heard a door creak open from the distance, a voice cutting through the oppressive silence. "You shouldn't have come here." Sarah trembling, she stood frozen. The choice was clear, but the implications filled her with dread. What waited beyond her door, and would she ever leave the horrors of the Shady Pines Motel behind? The floorboards creaked underfoot as Sarah dared to inch toward the door. The voice lingered in her mind, curling around her thoughts like smoke. Panic erupted within her. She wasn't sure if stepping outside meant facing unknown horrors or finding a way out. Both options felt equally perilous. In an instant, she lunged for the door handle, her heart leaping into her throat. With a quick twist, she opened the door, greeted by a thick darkness that seemed to pulse. The corridor stretched ahead, dim lights flickering like dying stars. Shadows shifted, skirting the edges of her vision, and for a second, she thought she saw a figure dart away. "Hello?" she called, the tremor in her voice betraying her fear. Silence answered. She peered into the abyss, and that chill crept back, sinking into her bones. What was out there? The owner? Someone else? She had to find out. Just as she decided to step outside, a sudden noise. A thud echoed from behind. Her instincts surged. She spun on her heel, heart racing, but it was too late. The door slammed shut behind her with a deafening bang, trapping her in the hallway. Panic clawed at her throat as she pressed her back against the cold wall. She tried the doorknob, but it refused to budge. A wave of desperation washed over her. She was trapped. Murmurs floated around her, disembodied. "They want you to stay," a voice hissed, chilling her further. Sarah's breath quickened while she scanned her surroundings. The dimly lit corridor grew longer, shadows playing tricks on her mind. A door to her left stood slightly ajar, a sliver of muted glow spilling out. She tiptoed toward it, every footfall a battle against the rising dread. As she reached the door, the whispers intensified, wrapping around her like a deceptive lullaby. Peeking inside, she stumbled upon what looked like a forgotten lounge. Torn upholstery lay wasted upon dusty chairs, a lone lamp pulsed, casting a sickly yellow hue, brutal and sickening. On the walls, pictures of guests long gone hung, their faces eerily staring, deep-set eyes observing her in a way that made her skin crawl. "Sarah? Is that you?" The voice came again, rasping, echoing through the air. It was familiar yet distorted, like hearing her name spoken through a veil. Who was it? She felt the floor shift beneath her feet, an unsettling feeling that this place did not want her there. "Leave while you can," it urged. Suddenly, the room grew colder. She turned to see the figure again, standing in the shadows. Its features were obscured, a blur of limbs and a haunting presence. A chill spiked down her spine. "You shouldn't have come here," it echoed, mirroring the earlier words she heard. "What do you want?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, barely breaking through the suffocating silence. As the figure stepped forward, a glimmer of recognition shone through the darkness, and her blood ran cold. Something about it was dreadfully familiar. Then, a sudden crash slammed down the corridor, fracturing the silence and sending her heart into a race. With a surge of adrenaline, she darted back into the hallway, desperately searching for a way out. But the motel wasn't merely a building. It breathed, pulsed, and alive with malevolence. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the very essence of the Shady Pines was pulling her back. Determined to keep her, she skidded around a corner, her mind a whirl of thoughts. Where was she even going? The walls began to close in, and a gut-wrenching realization surged within her. What if she was about to join those whispers, joining those who had never left? As hope flickered like the dying lights, she caught sight of the main desk. The old man sat, still waiting, an unsettling grin plastered on his face. "You've chosen wisely, you know. Only a few get to stay." Sarah's heart raced. The true horror of the Shady Pines Motel wasn't just its residents but its unyielding grasp. Would she become another shadow lost in its depths, or could she somehow break free? With a deep breath, she prepared to confront the nightmare that awaited her at the desk, knowing she could not return to the darkness behind. But the moment she stepped forward, she paused, her eyes widening as she noticed something behind the man, something that sent fear crashing over her anew. Sarah called the familiar voice again, echoing from the depths of the motel. You have to choose now. What choice would she make when faced with both the unknown and the lurking past? Sarah's heart thudded heavily in her chest, a relentless drum echoing the urgency of the moment. The old man leaned over the desk, his fingers steepled, creating a steely shadow over his grin. The figure behind him loomed larger, and the familiar voice twisted into a growl. Choose wisely, Sarah, or stay, like the others. The shadows danced around the lobby, growing darker, stretching and warping. She couldn't look behind the man, but something familiar tugged at her, a memory suppressed deep within her. The imagery from the lounge, from the distorted pictures of guests, started to blend with her recollections. Faces flashed in her mind, friends, laughter, yet twisted into something grotesque, faces frozen in fear, eyes wide with despair. Please, she stammered, desperation lacing her words. Who are you? The old man pointed to the door behind him. That place, he gestured, is where they awaited their choice too. With sudden intensity, his gaze pierced into her. But you can still turn back, just make a decision. You're not like the others. You have strength. The figure behind him stepped closer, its shadow overlapping the old man's. Panic gripped her as memories flickered like broken neon lights. A face, someone she had loved, someone who had been lost. How could it be? No, it can't be, she faltered. The whispers thickened around her, a cacophony of desperate pleas entwining with her swirling thoughts. You shouldn't have come here. You shouldn't have come here. The words wrapped around her, squeezing tighter, tightening her breath. Leave while you can. A voice screamed from the distance. It was dissonant, distorted, but familiar enough to provoke tears. She could almost see the face of her brother, panic brimming in his eyes before he vanished from her life. I won't let this happen again, she whispered, feeling the weight of her choice bearing down like a suffocating blanket. Choose. The old man barked, the trace of impatience creeping into his raspy voice. His grin faded, revealing something menacing behind those ancient eyes. A decision. But how could she choose between unknown horrors and the haunting past that threatened to pull her under? She could feel it, the tendrils of fear and regret ready to wrap around her heart if she stayed any longer. Frantic, she took a step back, her instinct screaming at her to run. Then she saw at the door behind the old man glimmered, almost inviting her. With a burst of clarity, she recalled every story she had ever heard, stories of haunted places, of trapped souls begging for release. What if I don't choose? She blurted, suddenly emboldened. The atmosphere shifted. The old man chuckled darkly, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. Then the choice will be made for you. Do you really wish to join those who have chosen to stay? Without another second to think, without the luxury of hesitation, Sarah turned to the door. But before she could bolt, the figure behind the desk lunged forward. Everything unraveled in a flash, the space distorted, bending under the weight of unseen forces. Shadows closed in like a vice, squeezing out the light. Stay. The growl echoed, deeper, reverberating off the walls. The faces on the pictures seemed to twist, their eyes flashing with malice as if urging her to abandon hope. She grasped the doorknob, the cold metal biting into her palm, her heart pounding louder than the thundering chaos around her. Would she break free, or would the forces surrounding her drag her down into eternal darkness? With a deep breath, she pushed the door open, ready to face whatever lay beyond, the unknown stretching vast and infinite before her. But the moment she stepped through, a deafening silence fell, and then she heard it again, the sickening voice, now chillingly close. You should have chosen correctly. What awaited her on the other side? Would it be freedom or damnation? A chilling doubt crept into her mind as the door slammed shut behind her. In the stillness, where the shadows lurked just out of sight, she felt the tightening grip of fate. What choice had she left behind when the door shut? Then she noticed something. Whispers from the darkness formed words she never thought she'd hear. You're mine now. Could she escape the ever-hungry Shady Pines? What darkness awaited her in this new realm? The air on the other side of the door felt thick, cloying like fog, heavy with despair. Sarah stumbled into a dim corridor, her pulse racing as she scanned the walls lined with peeling wallpaper. The muted light flickered, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to reach out, brushing against her legs. She took a tentative step forward, the wood creaking underfoot, its sound echoing eerily in the silence. There was no immediate sign of the man or the figure back in the lobby, but as she walked further in, a low hum began, like a swarm of flies buzzing just out of sight. Sarah's instinct screamed at her to turn back, but there was nowhere to go but deeper, and fleeing felt like cowardice in the face of uncertainty. Where am I? She whispered, her voice swallowed by the gloom. No answer greeted her, only the unwelcome resonance of her own fear. She pressed on, each breath tightening in her chest. The hallway stretched endlessly, leading into more darkened rooms, all the doors closed. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow darting at the edge of her vision, whispering promises of secrets untold. Stop, she commanded the air, her words trembling. Show yourself. Nothing responded but the hum, intensifying, oscillating like a tone just outside her grasp. Her heart pounded louder, threatening to drown out her thoughts. In that moment, she felt it again, memories clawing at her, desperate to be heard, to be remembered. She could almost see the fragments, images of laughter, warmth, and familiar faces. Then, a chill swept through the hallway, freezing her in place. Voices began drifting from the depths of the darkened rooms, muffled cries wrapping around her like chains. "Sarah," they said, elongating her name into something mournful. Each syllable dripped with anguish. "Who is there?" she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. She didn't want to hear the answer. The first door she approached was ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning her inside. Summoning courage, she gripped the handle and swung it open. The musty air rushed out, carrying with it a foul odor that made her stomach churn. As she stepped in, dread washed over her. The room was empty save for a rickety chair in the corner and the remnants of what might have once been a bed, but it was the wall opposite her that drew her gaze. A crack ran down it like a scar, blackened and charred as if burned by a relentless fire. Names were scrawled beneath the cracks, desperate etchings clawed into the plaster. With trembling hands, she ran her fingers over them, reading the names aloud, a compulsion she couldn't fight. Claire, Tom, Michael, every name reverberated through her, our stories intertwining. Each echoed with a tale of someone once vibrant, now woven into the very fabric of this cursed place. And then she saw it, the last name, barely legible. Sarah. It sent a jolt of icy fear coursing through her body. A weight pressed down on her, forcing her to her knees as the laughter of ghosts prickled at her skin. "This can't be happening," she managed, panting. She looked around, frantic. She needed to escape, but with that pressing sense of inevitability, the shadows encroached closer, whispering promises of belonging that seeped into her bones. Just as despair threatened to pull her under, the door to the room slammed shut, plunging her into darkness. Panicked, she jumped to her feet, heart racing, pounding against her ribs. "No, no, no. Let me out." The shadows danced on the walls, forming figures that twisted and turned as if mocking her efforts to flee. An electrifying laugh filtered in through the cracks, scratching at her resolve. "You wanted to know what's beyond the door, Sarah? This is your truth." In that moment, a whisper reached her ears. "Choose to stay or break the cycle." She took a deep breath, trembling, battling the rising tide of terror that threatened to drown her. Would resisting seal her fate, or could she fight back against the shadows claiming her soul? In the darkness, a familiar voice sliced through the noise, clearer this time. "Sarah. You have to remember, we are counting on you." Who was counting on her? And what memories remained buried, waiting to surface, that could save her from this waking nightmare? A piercing scream rang out from the hall, drawing her attention as the walls shuddered, shifting as if alive. Suddenly, the whisper returned. This time, it was a command: "Make your choice before it's too late." With the shadows shifting ominously around her, Sarah's heart thundered. Choices loomed before her like specters. Who would she be before dawn broke again? What might she uncover if she dared to delve deeper? The shadows pressed in tight, wrapping around her like a noose. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears, drowning out the whispers that still clawed at her sanity. She turned in frantic circles, searching for a way out, but the darkness felt alive, pulsing with an energy that made her skin crawl. "Remember," the voice lingered in her mind, urging her to ponder the forgotten. Each name scrawled on that wall transformed into a scream, a testimony to those who once wandered through this desolation. She gritted her teeth, forcing the fear down, willing her body to move despite the weight of despair bearing down. With clenched fists, she approached the door, but it held firm against her. "Let me out," she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. The laughter responded, a cruel mirth that sliced through the air. "Sarah, your choice awaits." The words slithered, filling the oppressive silence. In a moment of clarity, she realized she was not merely a visitor, she was part of this twisted narrative. Suddenly, the rickety chair tipped over, clattering noisily, drawing her attention. Her heart jumped. A gust of cold air whipped through the room, and her breath misted before her, swirling like phantoms. The chair straightened itself, as if inviting her to sit, to listen, to learn the inescapable truth behind each name. Casting a wary glance over her shoulder, she stepped toward the chair, her resolve hardening. The moment she settled into it, a surge of memory crashed over her, visions flickering like a film reel. She gasped as they rushed in her childhood home, laughter echoing through sunlit rooms. Familiar faces blurred by time, her parents smiling, her brother teasing her. And then, darkness, suffocating smoke, a scream of rage, her world twisted into desperation. "Don't go back, Sarah." Her mother's voice pierced through, desperation rippling across time. "You can't face that again." But she already was. The memories twisted, overlapping like fabric unraveling. Was this all she had been running from? The laughter deepened, morphing into cries. Fear clawed at her throat again, suffocating. "Make it stop!" She shrieked, her voice a raw edge against the chaos. "Face it!" The dark echo screamed, a mash of voices rising above the din. "You're the key. Choose who you are." She squeezed her eyes shut, and when she opened them, the room transformed. Walls pulsed with energy, names illuminated in ghostly light, pleading. They reached out, every name she touched ignited vivid scenes, their stories raw and real. Claire weeping in a barren room. Tom shouting at shadows. Michael grasping for the light, his screams haunting the very air. A sharp, familiar pain flared in her chest as the laughter exploded around her. Shadows twisted and contorted against the walls, lunging towards her. Fear dripped from their forms, a tangible terror that threatened to swallow her whole. "No!" she screamed, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. But a flicker of hope danced at the edge of her mind. "Remember us, Sarah." The clarity of her family's words echoed through her, instilling a fight she didn't know she had. She took a deep breath, fueled by love and anger. "I'm still here," she shouted, standing tall amid the swirling shadows. "I want to let you take me." Everything fell silent, the laughter ceased. The shadows receded, leaving a hollow in their wake. Sarah's heart pulsed as she faced the renewed silence, the sudden stillness wrapping around her like a blanket. But deep down, an unsettling fissure formed. What had she just unleashed? A flicker of movement in the corner caught her eye. Was that a figure emerging from the shadows? Her breath hitched, the air cold as ice. As it stepped into the flickering light, the familiar shape loomed closer, sending chills crawling up her spine. It wore her own face, twisted with malice, a grim smile stretching wide. "Welcome back," it hissed, the depths of its voice promising torment. "You found the truth, now you belong to us." And just like that, the chill returned. Sarah's heart dropped as she raced for the door, but the figure blocked her way, eyes gleaming with darkness. She had opened the door to the truth, but now another choice awaited her, one she feared more than anything. How would she escape this reflection of herself, the darkness she had summoned? Was this the end or merely the beginning? The figure loomed, a grotesque parody of Sarah's own face. Its eyes burned with malevolence. "You think you can just leave?" it taunted, its voice wrapping around her like a shroud. The air crackled with tension, stretching and pulling at the fabric of reality. Each heartbeat rang in her ears, hammering a rhythm of panic. "Get away from me!" she screamed, surprisingly fierce. Every instinct screamed at her to back away, to escape the twisted version of herself. Yet she was pinned in place by that mocking smile, a mirror reflecting her darkest fears. She glanced around, thoughts racing. This wasn't just a shadow, it was a part of her, born from her pain. The realization crashed over her like a tidal wave. The room started to contort again, walls bending and trembling. Names against the wood seemed to writhe, their spectral wails morphing into a terrible chorus. "Face us," they shrieked. Sarah stumbled back. What did she have to face? "Sarah, choose." The imposter grinned wider, a glint of insanity shining. From behind it, the shadows beckoned, inviting her to step into their abyss. The option hung heavy in the air. Could she dare to delve into that darkness and see what was buried there? Her head spun. This was no mere reflection. It was a splinter, one that had festered. Fear wrestled with the urge for understanding. She had to know, had to peel back the layers of her mind and confront whatever she had hidden away. "Remember who you are," she whispered, digging her nails into her palms as the voice escalated, merging with the cacophony of cries. Dread poured from her, staining her thoughts as she focused on all the names behind the figures. The figure began to ripple, its form shifting unnaturally. "You don't want to do this," it hissed, voice low and dangerous. It reached out, fingers elongating, dark tendrils racing toward her. Just as they wrapped around her wrists, that flicker of hope reignited within. "You don't control me." She pulled her arms free, electricity zinging through her. "I will uncover every truth." The shadows around her shrank back, concern spreading amongst their ranks. "Choose then." The figure screeched, its face twisting grotesquely. "Choose the darkness or the light." The room darkened, swirling shadows creeping back in as she gripped the chair tightly. Images flashed in her mind's eye, a shattering mirror, her childhood buried in ashes, her family's faces twisted in grief. She could feel the tears spilling down her cheeks, mingling with the cold sweat that dripped from her brow. "What is real?" she cried out, an anguished demand. "Is any of it real?" In that moment, the shadows paused. Was it a flicker of recognition in their depths? The figure's smirk faltered, its malevolence replaced with something resembling uncertainty. "Only you can decide," it whispered, its voice oozing with insincerity. As the shadows pulsed and swirled, a sudden warmth touched her back, fighting off the cold that grimly held her in its grasp. She turned to see a doorway emerging from the dark, glowing faintly, a thin line of light breaking through the oppressive gloom. "Step into your truth," it beckoned, the light warm and inviting. But what lay beyond it? Clarity or more horror? Her heart raced, a maelstrom of dread and desire swirling within her. "Trust yourself or be consumed," the figure hissed, shadows chiming in, creating a grotesque harmony. With a trembling heart, Sarah took a step toward the light. A voice in her head screamed in warning. Was she ready? Would she emerge whole, or would this plunge into the unknown devour her? And just as she was about to cross the threshold, the shadows lunged, desperate to reclaim her. The moment stretched. Sarah hung in the balance, poised between oblivion and understanding. Would she find the strength to choose wisely? Or would she vanish into that eternal darkness, leaving only a name to be scrawled in blood upon the walls of memory? A choice loomed ahead, its weight pressing down, as the darkness curled around her like ivy, demanding a sacrifice. The shadows lunged with ferocity, an eager maw ready to consume everything in its path. Sarah felt the darkness grip her harder, tendrils wrapping tighter around her limbs. Panic surged, her heart racing like a wild drum. She wavered, torn between the encroaching shadows and the thin slice of light that called to her. "Choose." The figure screamed, its voice a distorted echo. The room trembled with its demand, the very air heavy with a desperate energy. What did she truly desire? To confront her worst fears or to flee into the abyss? Let go. Let go. Sarah's thoughts thundered as she fought against the tightening hold. Her fingers clawed at the darkness, trying to tear herself free. Memories collided in her mind, laughter, warmth, the day everything turned cold. A sharp pain pierced her chest, a reminder of everything lost. The light shimmered, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. "Come to me," it whispered softly, urging her forward. But behind her, the figure twisted, warping and reshaping itself in sinister glee. "You dare to abandon yourself? You'll be nothing. Just a wisp of forgotten fear." It shrieked, voice growing shrill and layered. Sarah's head spun as the gears of her mind ground loudly. Everything she had buried was surfacing, raw anguish and guilt, each emotion pressing down like a heavy fog. She considered the dark things she had hidden away for so long, the mistakes and wrongdoings that had caused her so much pain. "Face it." A voice roared from the shadows, sharp and accusing. "Your truth is a monster." The shadows surged again, pulling at her, clawing for her essence. "No!" she shouted, her voice finding strength. She squeezed her eyes shut, picturing her family, their love and harsh promises that life would get better. "I'm bigger than this. Opening her eyes, she locked onto the pinprick of light. In that moment, a fierce resolve ignited within her. She took a step then another, feeling the warmth push against her dread. "I choose the light," she declared fiercely, optimism surging to her defense. The figure shrieked, fury rolling off it in waves. "You are nothing without us." It howled as the shadows clawed desperately at her ankles. With each step towards the light, Sarah summoned memories of laughter and moments of joy. She fought back each voice that tried to reclaim her, shoving their echoes deep into the recesses of her mind. "No more," she cried. "You don't own me." But just as she was about to embrace the light, it flickered and sputtered, darkness seeping through the cracks. Reality warped once more, a ripple of agony distorting her surroundings. The warmth flickered like a dying ember, threatening to extinguish. What if the light is just an illusion? The figure whispered, now more seductively than before, a whisper wrapped in velvet. "What awaits you? Only more pain? Only regret?" Her pulse quickened, doubt crept in like a thief in the night. Perhaps the shadows were right. Was there even truth waiting in that beckoning light, or would she just step into another layer of nightmares? The shadows hissed, hunger palpable as they slithered closer to her legs, cold whispers brushing against her skin, urging her to turn back. Frozen in the throes of indecision, she felt their influence creeping into her bones. "Choose," they taunted, their chorus swirling, echoing from the walls of her mind, and as the space around her constricted, closing in like a vice, Sarah believed that she had heard cries, not just coming from the shadows, but from something deeper, something more sinister. Something far beyond just memory. With the looming dread of the figure behind her, and uncertainty swirling, she felt the last flicker of light teetering on the edge. Could she dare trust it? In that moment, everything hung suspended, a heartbeat echoing louder than the last. The shadows closed in tighter, their fingers brushing her skin. What would she ultimately choose? Would the light reveal itself as salvation, or plunge her into deeper darkness? In terror, she felt the last glimmer of hope slip through her fingers. She was left standing on the knife's edge, one step away from either freedom or complete annihilation. What would she decide as the abyss hissed her name? The shadows lunged again, furious and relentless, a churning mass hungry for her essence. Sarah felt their icy fingers dig deeper into her skin, like the touch of grave soil. The figure behind her, still contorting, seemed to swell an empty-eyed maw that echoed her fears. "Choose." It screeched once more, its voice reverberating through her bones. "Embrace the agony of your truth, or perish in your blind denial." She could feel the fire of fear clenching her heart, its grip tightening like a noose. Memories swirled, the warmth of childhood laughter, the piercing sorrow of loss, like being submerged in a lake of knives. Would the light truly lead her to freedom, or was it just another cruel trick of the shadow? She hesitated, and in that moment of weakness, something in the dark shifted. A low growl reverberated through the air, like thunder before a storm. The shadows danced, their forms blurring, becoming something fleshy and more grotesque. Slivers of anguish twisted under the weight of that growl, and Sarah felt the oppressive weight of her fears manifest into something real. "Sarah, Sarah," they called in soft whispers, weaving through the thick darkness. "Remember," frantic, she squeezed her eyes shut again, but the memories crept through like silent assassins. Her best friend's last, desperate screams in a car crash, the chilling silence that followed. "You weren't there, you didn't save me." The voice echoed, sharp and accusing. The light flickered, sending a flicker of hope racing through her veins. Was it real? Or just another taunt born from her shattered psyche? With a scream that tore from her gut, she shouted, "I choose to fight. I choose to remember." The light surged, albeit dimly, pushing back against the menacing shadows that shrieked in protest. But the agony twisted further, and as she took a step toward the light, she stumbled. The shadows leapt forward, a wave crashing against her legs, pulling her down. "Face your fears," they howled, blistering her ears with their fury. "You can't run forever." Struggling, she dug her hands into the cold floor beneath her, the texture gritty under her nails. Panic exploded inside her chest, each breath she took felt heavier, more desperate. The memories clawed at her mind, every lost opportunity bubbling to the surface, each mistake a jagged edge in her heart. No. She lunged forward, pushing against the darkness in a primal roar. She felt the warmth of the light wash over her again, igniting the shadow's presence. They recoiled, shrieking as if scalded. But just as she thought she could make it, the ground beneath twisted again, crumbling into an abyss. Sarah dangled precariously, barely gripping the precipice. The void beneath clawed at her legs, sucking her down, and screams climbed out of her throat. Was this how it would end? Let go, a voice crooned, softer now, seductive and soothing amidst the chaos. It's easier in the dark. Let go. The figure loomed over her, smirking, its form shifting like smoke. Without this light, there is freedom. You can embrace the void, finish what you started. Terror-stricken, Sarah's heart thundered in her ears. The light flickered still, but the heaviness of those whispers twisted her mind. Was it safer to confront pain, or let the dark swallow it whole? As she hung in the balance, a sudden flash of clarity struck her. The shadows were feeding off her fear and regret. I will not let you take me, she shouted, defiance sparking in her gut. But as she pulled herself up to rise into the light, 1,000 shadows erupted, howling in rage. Suddenly, the world around her twisted anew, the light brilliant, then swallowed in a wave of darkness. And in that fleeting moment, Sarah realized the shadows were not just her fears. They were something far more tangible, something she had left behind. As the darkness embraced her, an icy hand gripped her heart. What awaited her in that gaping maw of despair? Would she find the answers she sought, or become just another lost soul in the haunting? With the echoes of despair closing in, she felt the last strands of hope slip through once more. What truth lay buried within her own darkness? Would she be brave enough to uncover it? The darkness swallowed her whole, an inky mass that silenced the world. For a moment, time lost its meaning. Sarah gasped, the breath escaping her like a fading heartbeat. She was falling, swallowed by shadows that whispered secrets only her soul could decipher. Then came the cold. It seeped into her bones, each drop like ice water coursing through her veins. Her heart thundered, echoing in the void that seemed to pulse with ancient energy. You're not alone, a whisper slithered from the shadows, wrapping around her like a noose. We are many, and we remember. Images flashed before her, blurred but vivid. Faces etched in sadness, agony reflected in empty eyes, lost souls tethered to their misery. They reached out, their hands clawing at the shadows, yearning for the light Sarah had briefly touched. Voices mingled, a chorus of sorrow that twisted her insides. Help us, came a high-pitched wail that sliced through the thick air. Don't let our pain be in vain. The voices twisted like smoke, spiraling around her. Before she could choke out a response, tendrils of shadow shot out, coiling around her ankles, tugging her deeper into their lament. Help me, echoed a voice she recognized. The stark realization hit like a thunderclap. Emily. Her best friend's name hung in the air, a tether to her past. Memories flooded her brain, vivid snapshots of laughter that turned into cries the moment Emily was lost, the night Sarah had failed to save her. Face your regrets, Sarah, the shadows hissed, their tone mocking, their presence crushing. The hands of the lost clutched at her, unsure if they were reaching for salvation or despair. What do you fear most? The dark or the truth? You can't run forever. Teetering on the edge of madness, Sarah felt her heart race. The ground beneath her was no longer solid, it transformed like quicksand, rippling and quaking. Swallowed inside her pain, she found herself not just a victim but a participant in this sinister play. The shadows stole her breath, urging her to give in. Stop! She screamed, her voice a fragile thread amidst the howls. She kicked against the dark, feeling the cold hands slip away. You aren't real. I refuse to be bound by this. But doubt curled back, whispering sweet nothings in her ear, planting seeds of fear. What if it's too late? What if you've always been a coward? No! She roared, fighting back with a fierceness she hadn't known she possessed. Emily needs me. I didn't abandon you. With each shout, the shadows flinched. They recoiled, howling as the light in her heart flickered back to life. But then horror unfolded as the shadows morphed before her eyes, shifting forms into specters of her past. Childhood friends, loved ones, all twisted within their own screams. Remember our laughter? Our dreams? One called mocking her, laughter turning into sobs. You let me go. No. Sarah felt like she was splintering. A flood of anger coursed through her, visceral and potent. Each face bore a mask of her guilt, her failure, and bitterness surged. Grabbing hold of the remnants of her bravery, she stepped forward, felt the shadows draw back, however briefly. Light, pure and fierce, glimmered ahead. She surged toward it, but it flickered like a dying star, revealing her darkest truth. A choice lay before her, a decision etched in her soul. Would she embrace the fragmented pieces of her truth and reclaim the light, or descend further into the darkness, condemned to join the screams around her forever? As she neared the light, a figure emerged, a reflection of herself, twisted and darkened, yearning to pull her back. Stay with us, it's easier here, let the light go. The tendrils tightened around her, clinging like desperate echoes. Breathless, Sarah faced the looming figure of herself in aching defiance. I will not let you win. But suddenly, her footing slipped as the shadows converged again, pulling her back toward the abyss. The truth was too close, yet so far. Would she make it, or succumb to her worst fear? As she fell, the world fractured around her, and the shadows whispered, you can't escape your past. What awaited her in the depths of despair? Would she find salvation or be forever lost? The darkness clawed at her, its tendrils wrapping around her like a vice, but in that moment, Sarah struck back, fueled by the ache of loss and a fierce desire for redemption. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. Emily's face illuminated her mind, piercing through the shadows with clarity. I want to let you take her. She shouted against the chaos, her voice echoing through the abyss, a beacon of defiance. The swirling shadows paused, as if surprised by her strength. You think you're worthy to challenge the darkness? They hissed. Their voices layered, a cacophony of taunts, but Sarah was ready to confront them. I am worthy. She screamed, eyes blazing with determination. I choose to face my truth, and I will find a way to light this darkness. In an act of sheer will, she thrust her hand forward, reaching for the swirling light that flickered in the distance. Suddenly, the world erupted into a tempest of light and shadow. The darkness wailed, twisting away as if burned by the fierce glow. Sarah felt the warmth envelop her, pushing against the icy grasp of despair. The faces of her loved ones merged in her mind, whispering words of encouragement, certainty that anchored her. You can do this, Sarah. You are stronger than your fears. She pressed forward, every step defying the invisible chains that had bound her for so long. The light pulsed with energy, powerful and inviting, and as she drew closer, everything around her started to dissolve, the horrific manifestations of her guilt and pain crumbling into fragments. Stop running. The shadows shrieked, desperately trying to reel her back. But with each heartbeat, she fought harder against the despair. I lost you once, but I want to lose you again. She yelled out into the void, and the brightness intensified around her, blinding her momentarily. When the light waned, she found herself standing amidst the remnants of the motel. The Shady Pines was fading, peeling walls crumbling to dust, leaving behind a husk of all that it once meant. Sarah staggered back, breathing heavily as she took in her surroundings. The lobby's sinister aura had dissolved, replaced with an eerie silence that echoed with the soft whisper of freedom. Emily? Her voice trembled as she called out, hope and fear mingling into one. A shimmer caught her eye, figures emerged from the fading shadows. They were shaped like her loved ones' faces, once twisted in agony, now serene as light engulfed them. One face stepped forward, and her heart surged. Emily's voice was soft, but it filled the space with warmth. The guilt that had compressed against her chest melted away. The shadows fell back, retreating into oblivion, robbed of their power. I'm so sorry, Sarah whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. I tried to save you, I failed. Emily smiled gently. You didn't fail. You found me again. You faced your past, and for that, you freed us all. The room shimmered, and as the light brightened, Sarah felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The memories of laughter and love flooded back, filling the emptiness that haunted her. She could see other faces now: Claire, Tom, Michael emerging from the shadows, smiling, embracing Annie in a tender reunion. They were all there, freed at last. I'm proud of you, Emily said, her voice a mere whisper now. You faced what you feared, and chose to break the cycle. Skin prickling with renewed purpose, Sarah nodded. Thank you for guiding me. The light around them intensified again, wrapping around them like a cocoon, an unbreakable bond against the darkness. As they stepped into the light together, Sarah felt a warmth like never before. One last choice hovered before her: stay with the memories or move on into the unknown. The light beckoned her forward, whispering promises of healing and hope. With her heart racing, she reached out, letting the light envelop her completely. Tender warmth consumed her, and the last remnants of the shadows faded into nothingness. In that brilliant flash, she felt emboldened, a freedom blooming within. She knew she would carry this moment with her, the strength of her past guiding her toward a new chapter. As she emerged into daylight, the dark motel had vanished, leaving nothing behind but the open country road ahead, a path lit with endless possibilities. Sarah took a deep breath, the sunlight warming her skin, and she started to walk, each step carrying the weight of her newfound freedom. The shadows behind her were gone, and she was finally free. Don't wait even one more second to share this video and spread the story of hope and resilience. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss future terrifying, yet impactful stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help these tales reach those who need them. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What was your favorite moment? And share this video with at least 5 friends who need a reminder of the light that can follow darkness.